time I did van and reefer. Today we're going to talk about open deck, step deck, flatbed. You can expect a lot of work. You can expect busy times and not so busy times. Usually the summertime is flatbed and step deck's a really busy time, and then the rest of the year it's steady, but it's not as busy. The loads aren't as good. They don't pay quite as good. Yada yada yada. You can expect a lot of, I call them crap loads, where they try to get as much on your trailer as they can because they're paying for a trailer load, and so it's like a real life Tetris situation. I've got videos on my channel that show that. You can also expect to have to get out chain, tarp, strap in the cold, in the heat, in the rain, in the snow, in the sleet. It doesn't matter. Normally, if something has to be tarped and it's bad weather, they let you tarp inside. But I have had to tarp in the pouring rain. I've had to chain in the pouring rain. I've had to strap in the pouring rain. I've had to strap in the snow. If you're in step deck and you have ramps, I hate them sons of guns. They're heavy, they're awkward, they're a pain in my ass. But the more you can do, the better off you are. If you got a step deck with ramps and you get yourself in a situation, or your dispatcher gets yourself in a situation where the only load coming out of there is something that needs to be ramped, well, you got them, you can use them. But the weather is the biggest factor in flatbed. You also got to know your securement procedures. How much weight does your rub rail hold? Excuse me. Mine is 6,000 pounds per pocket. Straps, a 4-inch strap is 5,400 pounds. A 3/8 chain, 7,000 pounds. So if you're chaining something to your rub rail, even though that chain is 7,000 pounds, you can only count for 6,000 because that's what your rub rail holds. You have to go with the lowest number. There's all kinds of different rules and regulations according to DOT and FMCSA about load length, how many straps. You know, it's supposed to be 2 straps within the first 5 feet. And then they say every 10 feet. I've never read that. I always do every 6 or 8. You're never, ever, ever going to get in a situation where DOT is mad at you for putting extra securement on. You got to look at it this way. If you put straps every 6 feet and FMCSA calls for every 10 feet, and you get pulled in and get an inspection, and one of your straps, DOT doesn't like it, it's chafed or it's ripped a little bit. I don't remember what the inch is. I think it's a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch that it's no longer considered securement. But if you got straps every 6 feet and they want every 10 feet and you got a bad strap, then you're still legal. Even if they take that strap out of the equation, you're still legal. FMCSA says that they want 50% of the load covered in securement. So for easy math, if your load is 50,000 pounds, you only have to have straps for 25,000 pounds. Now, that does not include the 2 in the front and the 5 feet, yada, yada, yada. So it depends on how long your load is, how high it is, and what it is. A lot of times we'll put a layer strap on pipe, or we'll put a layer strap on wood. It just depends. I've got a lot of securement videos out there. Most of the time, the companies, depending on which one you go to work for, will put you through a securement school. Usually it's about a week long. I know that Maverick does it, TMC does it, Prime does it. I think Swift does it, although they don't have near as many flatbeds as like a lot of other people. But your securement is your biggest challenge. Now, I will tell you, if you're hauling lumber, if you're hauling steel, you need to be using brake chains or brake straps. And what that is it's a strap or a chain, depending on, you don't want to put chain on wood. That's overkill. Way overkill. Unless that's all you got. I've seen people that will chain wood because they didn't have enough straps. You're not going to get in trouble for that. If you use strap on steel, make sure you use edge protectors. You need to have several different kinds. But you put a strap or a chain in the front, like a bulkhead, and you cross them, especially wood. Steel, depending on what you got, you can use one piece of chain. If you're hauling steel plate, you hook up the chain, say on the left side, go over the plate into the middle and come back under, and then hook it to your rub rail and tighten it up, and that will stop any forward movement if you have to get on your brakes. Same thing with wood. Anything that can get moving, that's a big enemy. You gotta make sure your straps are tight, your chains are tight. FMCSA says after you load, you gotta stop at 50 miles and check your straps because everything will settle. Check your chains. Everything will settle. And usually, if something's gonna be loose, that's when it's gonna be loose. I do the 50-mile check, and then every time I stop, I'll stop and I'll walk around the truck. Now, if it's one of those days I gotta get some miles, I'll still stop about every 2 hours, which is what FMCSA says, and check my load. I've never had them say anything about me not logging it. I will go on duty, off of driving, and spend about 5 minutes walking around checking straps, checking chains. You gotta know how to secure your dunnage. You can't just put your dunnage in the frame of the trailer or on your landing gear braces and bungee cord it down. That don't fly. You gotta have a strap on it. It could be a 1-inch strap, it can be a 2, or it can be a 4, but it can be a 1-inch strap, a 2-inch strap, 4-inch strap. It doesn't matter. A lot of people will build a bulkhead out of their dunnage with a chain. But if you're using a 1-inch strap, you need to make sure you leave the tag on that shows the weight rating. If it doesn't have a weight rating, FMCSA is not going to count it. Your headache rack. When you put your chains and binders in your headache rack, you have to secure the hooks. A lot of times there's a flip up deal that goes over your hooks. That has to be down. It doesn't have to be secured, but it has to be down. And this goes for all trucks, van, reefer, flatbed, step deck, RGN, car haulers, all that. Your pigtail cord cannot rub on your catwalk. It can rub on your headache rack because it's not sharp, but it cannot rub and chafe on your catwalk. If you're doing oversize, depending on your permits, and I'll make another video on oversize, but if you're doing oversize and you're running permits, your best bet is to look at the states and see what the states require on lighting and stuff like that. The two biggest states that are pains in the butt, New York and Indiana. You got to have a light on top that can be seen 360. You got to have lights that can be seen 360 degrees. Not all states require that. But the way I set my truck up that I'm legal in all states. So I have lights on top, front, back. I even have lights on the sides. And then you go according to your permit for banners, flags, all that bunch of stuff. That's going to be a separate video on how to stay on route, because that gets confusing. But a lot of times the difference with van and reefer versus open deck is you're loading during the day, you're unloading during the day, and I drive during the day. I don't drive all night long. Hey, I can't sleep during the day. So very rarely do I need to make an overnight run. I've had to do it occasionally. But you know, you'll get into some cool stuff. You'll get to go to airports, and you'll get to go to football stadiums, and you know, we've been to the museums and stuff like that. You get into some better areas and get to see some cooler stuff in open deck. But be prepared to work. You got to have steel-toed shoes, hard hat, safety vest. A lot of places want safety glasses. You got to have a really good pair of gloves. I've got a video on there, the best gloves I've ever found, that, you know, they'll last 8-10 months per pair, versus the gloves you buy at the truck stop. You know, those gloves are going to last a month. Y'all want more info on that, I can put a link in the description. I probably will anyway. But there's certain attire. You go to steel mills a lot, they want you to have long sleeve shirts. Why? I have no idea, but they do. Steel-toed boots, like I said. Get you a good hard hat. Those cheap $20 hard hats are crap. And it's not that they won't protect you, it's just they have a hard time staying on. You're gonna have to have long pants. I know a lot of these people today are wearing flip-flops and sandals, and you know, you can't go into a steel mill wearing Crocs. You can't go into a steel mill wearing shorts a lot of times. So yes, I wear shorts a lot, but 9 times out of 10 I change right before I get to my shipper or receiver, and I put on work clothes. I'm going to be comfortable while I drive, that's cool. But when you're getting out to load, have the proper gear on, y'all. I've seen a guy loading concrete forms, and I got a video on it, I believe, that he showed up and he's wearing flip-flops. And the guy's like, no. You know, if you were working at that place as a full-time job, you wouldn't show up wearing flip-flops. Come on. So for that hour or 2 hour period of time that you're at their place, you need to dress like they do. That's another thing. Flatbed, step deck, you're usually loaded in and out. Usually no more than a couple hours. Now there are some places like James Hardy in Indiana, you'll be there all day long. You better stop and get you McDonald's on the way, because you're going to need it. Those places I just don't go back to. Van and reefer, you can guarantee you're going to be there hours and hours and hours. It's not like that in flatbed. You get treated a lot better in flatbed. They're happy to see you most of the time. Whether you're picking up or delivering, most of the time they're happy to see you. So you got to have more training for flatbed, step deck. Depending on what you're hauling, you got to drive different. If you're hauling a suicide coil, which means the eye is to the side, the center of the coil is to the side of the trailers, you can't be riding people's butts. I see trucks all the time that are 5 feet away from the car in front of them going 70 miles an hour down the road. You can't do that. I don't care how much security you got on that coil. You slam on your brakes because you're riding somebody's tail, and you're going to see that coil, and it's not going to be the way you want to see it. I can guarantee it. If you're loading that coil shotgun to where the eye is in the middle of the trailer running parallel with the trailer, then you got to slow down on your curves a little bit. But you'll figure that out. tell a lot of people when they're new on flatbed is if you don't know how to load something, normally, you know, watch the trucks in front of you. Especially, you know, if you're at a roof and shingle place or a wood place, you know, picking up lumber or steel or something like that. See what the person's doing in front of you and go from there. If you're loading steel, all of your steel needs to touch. In other words, if you're loading I-beam or pipe or trusses, no gaps. No gaps in the middle. If there's gaps in the middle, you need to ask them to block it and push it together. They'll know what you're talking about. Because if you don't have them touching in the middle, you put a chain on that, all you're securing is the outside edges, them inside I-beams. They are free to go where they want to go. And that is the incorrect way to do it. If I see somebody doing something incorrect, I will ask them if they want help. I'm not going to force them. I'm not going to yell and scream and holler and call them stupid. I may be thinking it, but I will ask them if they want help. And that's the way we used to do it back in the day. We have got to get this trucking industry back to helping each other instead of everybody just looking out for themselves. Now, there is a time and place to look out for yourself. If I'm waiting on somebody to back into a spot, I will give them plenty of room and plenty of time. That being said, if they've made 8 or 10 pull-ups and they're sitting there and they get out and they're looking and I can get through, I'm going to go ahead and go through. But I'm going to give them the opportunity to do that. The biggest pain in my butt and the fastest way to tick me off and a lot of other drivers is you're backing into a spot, especially at a truck stop, and somebody cuts in between you and the hole you're going to. Backing up is one of the most dangerous things you can do driving a truck. You can't see very good. If you can't judge distance, it's even worse. But don't be afraid. If you see somebody in a truck beside where you're backing up, if you need help, get out and ask. I've never seen a truck driver, even though it's a different class of people nowadays, it's a different style, it's a different environment. I have never run across a truck driver that said, no, do it yourself. Get out and help. If somebody's backing into beside me, I get out. If they need my help, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine too. But I get out. And normally, I do not put my curtain up until both spots are taken on both sides. In other words, if there's an open hole on the left and an open hole on the right, I don't put my curtain up until those spots are taken. I don't want somebody backing into me. Even though it's a not my fault accident, now my truck's going to be in the shop getting body damage fixed, and it's going to cost me money. And let me tell you something. Whoever hit you is not going to pay the driver for lost wages. It don't work that way. They're going to pay the company for the damages and the downtime, and you're not going to see a dime of it. If you're down for 3 or 4 days because somebody backed into you, you're not going to see a dime. Your company may give you layover pay or breakdown pay, but that pay versus what you could make running is night and day. You're going to get $100, $200 a day breakdown pay. I don't get anything for breakdown pay because I'm on percentage. I don't get tarping pay because I'm on percentage. I don't get extra stop pay. I don't get layover pay because I'm on percentage. If your mileage, then you know you get extra money for tarp pay. You get extra money for extra stops. You get all that stuff. But layover pay, detention pay, lots of times drivers don't see that. So you got to do what you got to do, and this goes for just more than flatbed and step deck. But you got to do what you got to do at the truck stop to protect yourself, because they will back into you. They will pull out and cut it too close and run over your hood, and then you're down. Now you're not making making any money. So anyway, I don't know what next week's video is going to be. It may be driving in high wind. I'm not sure. But anyway, y'all, I appreciate